Etsy has just released a new article that has some interesting factors that impact where your listings rank, and they've never before shared some of these, so we better look into it. This article is called The Anatomy of a Well-Crafted Etsy Listing, and it says it shows you how every detail of your Etsy product listing can play a crucial role in converting browsers to buyers. But it also includes some ranking factors too. I've checked, so let's dig into it. Firstly, of course, it depends on the device as to how shoppers see your listing, but there is an image here of how a listing shows on the desktop. Does this mean that they're going to stop testing the layout quite so much? The first section here is the listing images. The wording is interesting. If you're looking to optimize your first listing for search engines, avoid text overlays, collages, or using a collection of images for your first thumbnail. Generally, when Etsy mentions for search engines, it means for Google, etc., not for Etsy search. But I guess if a listing isn't working in Etsy search, it doesn't hurt to experiment with having a simpler first image. Then we have the usual background, except for this last point. Your first listing photo should have a width and height of at least 635 pixels to avoid showing up lower in searches. An actual minimum size? That sounds like it might directly impact search placement. Hang on, that's showing on my listings now. How long's that been there? Plenty photo editing software can increase the size of an image, so it can't hurt to spend 5 minutes changing out the image if it's a bit on the small side. Nothing much new in the listing title section. They say concise but don't explain what that is. Reading that, it could almost suggest they want you to use all 140 characters. But then what's the point of saying concise when we already have a limit? Personally, I think it's best to experiment with titles and see what works best for your customers, because clicks and sales trump SEO tweaks here. Prices, yeah, you want low shipping price, but it doesn't say anything about ranking here anymore. So again, test your prices for what is fair for you and what works for your customer. Delivery date is a factor for shoppers, so again, stay realistic and accurate for your customers. What Etsy don't mention here is that if you keep on shipping later than you state, that can impact your ranking, star seller, or even get your shop closed down. So give yourself some wiggle room. But that's just your processing time. Don't worry about Etsy's silly customer expects by. That's their hallucinations based on their own calculations. And you won't lose your score for shipping issues that weren't you. Policies, interesting. We already know that a shop policy can boost your ranking in search, but using Etsy's shop policy template can give you an additional boost. I don't think I've heard that before. Description, normal advice, except for this bit that people are spotting. Etsy Search considers keywords and phrases within your listing descriptions when ranking your listing, the second phase of search ranking within Etsy's search algorithm. So for those who don't know what that is, the Etsy search algorithm, Etsy considers in two phases. I think of it as three. But Etsy's explanation is that stage one finds all the listings relevant to the search term entered, and then stage two ranks them. And for me, stage three is the extra pass that personalizes them. So if the description is not looking at stage one, then they're not saying to try stuffing additional keywords in here. The keywords in the description are only to back up what's already in the title, tags, and attributes. Here are their key tips, and that's basically best practices for Google as well. Basically, your keyword should describe your item, so it should be easy to write a sentence in your description that includes those keywords. But remember, the buyer reads this area, so make sure it's helpful and interesting to the buyer rather than trying to keyword stuff for the algorithm. Reviews, yep, they are important, but new listings are not penalised so long as they don't have anything else wrong with them. Attributes as normal, pick the ones that are most relevant to your listings. Honestly, don't stress too much on them. Tags. Now, here's an additional thing. Etsy are suggesting that it's best to use phrases in tags, not jumbles of words. I know a lot of people use the mix and match word strategy in tags, and it does work for them. Gives them a chance to be found for more keywords. But Etsy have always said that having an exact match to keyword phrase does rank you higher. Up until now, it's not been much of a difference. Are they planning to change that? I don't know. It might be a good idea to have a few listings with phrases for tags instead of a jumble of words just in case. It certainly won't hurt. And your small business story? Actually, I love this section where Etsy's telling us to talk about the person behind the business. Honestly, this is becoming more and more important with people being wary of sellers on Etsy. And Etsy saying your shop title can influence search engine optimization. Again, they're not saying Etsy search, so this is likely things like Google. And honestly, most of us don't have a chance of our shop or even listings directly appearing on Google. But your shop title mentioning what you make is good practice anyway. And if it helps Google understand that you're an authority on your niche, then who knows? It might help. It doesn't take much time, and don't keyword stuff. It looks better for the buyers too. So I say spend the time to do that. What do you think of this article? Honestly, I think it's fairly helpful and some little interesting nuggets in there of things that might be worth bearing in mind and experimenting with. But let me know in the comments below.